So Sarah, can you tell us more about, how did you get your first gig? How did you initially break into that industry and really start?
Our first gig was a gig for Alvin's friend. So we were lucky there. And then from there, because one of the regular patrons at that bar is actually the manager at Walla Walla.
Oh wow, so
Yeah,
that
so-
kind of like...
Yeah, but I mean from there we didn't go straight to Walla Walla because at the time when we were playing at that little pub, we were playing jazz. It was only jazz. And so from there I think we just kind of got like a couple of people who came to watch us and said, hey, can you play a wedding? Can you play this? And then it just kind of, it spreads out that way. I think for people who are starting to look for gigs, it helps a lot if you go to watch gigs. Like if you go watch any show that's happening, be it cover shows like, at Timber and Walla Walla, or if you hear about a gig where, if you're a singer-songwriter, you play original music, and you know a couple of people who are actually playing at a particular show, go watch it. Like, the most important thing about being able to get gigs is to actually put yourself out there to meet contacts.
So developing your network.
Yeah, developing a network, because at the end of the day, as much as you want it to be entirely about music, it's about human relations as well. You can't expect to make yourself known without actually interacting. Without interacting with people. So I will say that one very big step you can take is to just keep going to gigs, introducing yourself to people. Of course, don't be like overbearing and like, hi, this is my song. It's more about just putting yourself out there and making it known that,
I think building relationships with people, right?
Yes, for
and
sure.
And not just for the sake of getting a gig, but just like, getting your name out there.
For sure.
Also,
But also, it's very important to keep, like, having your material done, like be it on YouTube, be it on recordings, on SoundCloud or stuff like that. You have to keep putting yourself out there in very vulnerable situations that may not necessarily always, end up in good results. Like you don't necessarily always get the gig that you want.
Yeah, but taking that risk, I think, and continuing to take that risk, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, in order for us to end up playing at Walla Walla and Timber, we went through like 6 years of just doing the smallest, sometimes crappiest gigs ever. Yeah, but that's how we learned it. That's how we kind of developed a name for ourselves.
So like sticking with it throughout.
Yes.
So I think like that grit and determination of really getting committed to it and seeing it through.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what happens? So after you go out, let's say I want to like perform, right? Also, so I go and talk to, let's say I go to Timber and I meet people there. Then what's the next step after that for people?
I don't think there's any particular step to be taken.
Yeah.
It all just kind of depends on how everything flows for you. Everybody charts their own path. But I will say that it's not exactly the most difficult thing to do. For anyone who's trying out and you're starting to feel a bit down about losing a couple of gigs here and there, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
It's a constant thing because our industry is something that is constantly changing. For most of us, even just getting gigs that are as simple as, playing at a small show for a small shop opening, okay? Let's say that. And then after that, you don't get gigs for a while. It's very normal and it's not something to be disheartened by.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small gig every once in a while, it's still better than not getting anything at all. And then from there, you have to just keep working at it. You have to keep playing whatever shows that you can get your hands on, because you don't just suddenly get the big shows out of nothing. It's very hard to expect things to happen straight away. It's kind of like, how people are giving current uni kids a lot of flack for expecting a certain pay the minute they start working. Yeah, we all started small, we all started somewhere. And I think it definitely helps if you're hardworking. You always make sure that every show that you do, even if it's a bad show, you make it 110%. Like we played shows where we go insane before the show starts. Like the sound is not good, the organizers are in a mess, everything is going crazy, everything could potentially be the worst show in the world.
But you still bring your 100%.
We bring it and we actually, pardon my French, but we call it turning shit into gold.
Yeah.
We make sure that the gig is the most amazing gig that we ever do. So I think it's your work ethic as well. If people see that your work ethic is good, they will want to call you back. Of course, you have to sound good so lah, you know.
Yeah. So I think for even into like breaking into that industry, right? You know, like that what you're saying about just sticking with it until you do get recognized and stuff. So like, what about you said earlier that the music industry now is pretty saturated too, because there's so many, there's so much talent out there, you know, and like, you know, the big places like Timber and Walla Walla, you know, the places that are really popular, you know, they're already very resident musicians there. So for someone that is trying to break into the industry, where could they start?
As in with cover bands?
Cover bands or even
if you're saying specifically to Timber and Walla Walla.
Yeah.
Well, on Tuesdays at Timber, we have this thing called Open Mic Night. And most of the time, the managers are usually there listening. Or sometimes, like last night when we were playing, our boss, Danny, was actually there. So there's always that option, like for us, if you would like to, you can always come down with your instrument, with your guitar, come and play. I mean, we're giving musicians or young budding musicians the opportunity, because I feel like the same question they're asking, you know, I want to play at these places, but how do I even start? And I think a lot of the time, even just emailing into the company doesn't really work, because we already have a schedule. Yeah, we already have so many musicians. Beyond just the musicians that you see that are playing every night, there's also that small pool on the side that is there to help out whenever we can't make it, or we're sick and stuff like that. So to get yourself noticed, it can be a bit hard, I will say that. Thankfully, the bosses at Timber and Walla are both very, very supportive of young, budding local musicians. So, yeah, if you come on Tuesday, we'll let you play.
What about original
people will hear
singers, songwriters then? Where would they go?
There is also at Timber, there's SG Original Nights that happens on Wednesdays. So you can just email, you can submit your stuff, and you know, they will slot you in if it's good enough. And you get to play like a whole set of your own original music before the primetime band comes on.
Okay.
So that's still like a really big stage to play at. There's also a couple of platforms like, say, Noise Singapore.
Yeah.
That's one of the
and
things
that's a
I
festival.
work with. Yes, it's kind of like a festival. So it's actually a mentorship program. It's not just for music, it's for photography, it's for fine arts and stuff like that. What we do is, us as mentors, like a couple of us in the music industry, we audition the bands that are coming in, or the singer-songwriters. We choose two of our own favorites, and we mentor them, and at the end of it, they get to perform at the Esplanade. So that's like a huge venue as well.
And you do get that support and guidance too.
Of course, yeah. You know, we're telling them all our trade secrets, like how do we do stuff. There's also Hood Bar that also supports local music. Walla Walla also allows for people to come up and jam all the time. Yeah, all these places are actually very supportive.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a very supportive community.
You know, the problem is Singaporeans are so shy. I think the thing is, now we're seeing that the industry is so saturated because there are these opportunities like all these programs. There's also Babies, which is held by Esplanade themselves. Yeah. You know, and they allow bands that have never played before to come up, as long as you're good enough. You know, you make sure that you work very hard for it. But now that there are all these platforms, people are coming out of their hiding. You know, they're finally surfacing.
Because really, I think taking that step and just really stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, because of course, I'm very sure it's very intimidating if a band on stage goes, anybody wants to come up and sing, please come up. But you know, but the thing is, some of the customers are really awesome singers, and apparently they do play and sing on their own. But their friends have to go with them for like 5 minutes before they actually dare to come up. Yeah. You know, whereas if it was, you know, a different society, like we have Caucasian customers, or you know, people not from Singapore, the minute we say please come up, they're instant. You know, they're more than happy to take the chance.
So that's like shifting that mindset too.
Yeah, I think we need to encourage people to be a bit more daring, a bit more risk taking, and not to be embarrassed about being confident. Because it doesn't mean that if you're very willing to come up, it doesn't mean that you're being action, you know, like trying to show it off. You're just taking an opportunity that's given to you, and if you come up and you're an amazing singer, who's to say that I'm not going to call you to do a gig for me next time? Yeah. You know?
But really taking that risk and stepping up initially.
Yeah, you never know when something might happen.
And really taking each opportunity as it comes, you know, because once that moment's pass, right, then so is the opportunity. So really grabbing it when.
Yeah, for sure.
What does an aspiring musician need to do in Singapore to get, I guess, to have a career in music? What kind of person do they have to be?
You have to build a name for yourself, and beyond just marketing and stuff like that, your work ethic makes a lot of difference.
So tell us more about that, like a work ethic.
We're very punctual. I'm very punctual, and I try to make sure, actually most of us are in the band, we always make sure that, you know, whenever we say, when sound check starts at 5, we get there like 4:45 so that we make sure that we're on stage by 5 o'clock to start the sound check.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. And it's things like that that we've had so many clients come up and tell us, like organizers for events, they're like, we always call you because we know that we don't have to worry about calling you and panicking where, you know, finding out where you are and stuff like
Being
that.
reliable and accountable.
Yes, being very reliable, being responsible. You know, everybody thinks musicians are all late sleepers. They do, you know, you're constantly drunk, you're doing drugs, or slacking off, you're just meeting chicks for fun. It's not like that in Singapore. Very, very rare, very rare. Of course, you know, the guys love them chicks, but I think we have to change that mindset that musicians are always late.
Yeah.
It's a very big problem here. Beyond that, also, you know, making sure that you're responsible with interactions, be it via email, be it via text, and stuff like that. Making sure that you're professional, because half of us don't use agents, we self-manage. So that's very, very important as well. And knowing how to deal with bad situations.
Yeah.
So it definitely helps if there's more than one person in the band. Like say for instance, if Alvin's already up to here with a client, you know, like the client's being a bit difficult, then come actual day, I will take over.
So how do you manage that within your band, for instance? Like, do all of you talking to different clients at once, or is one person in charge of it?
Alvin
mostly?
is the only person talking to clients.
Yeah.
For overseas shows, I take over because there are too many for him to handle locally. So
Yeah.
when it comes to like flights and accommodations and everything, I take care of all the logistics and everything. But in terms of managing the band, it's entirely him. So he actually takes it on as a full-time job because we get in about like 10 emails a day,
Yeah.
10 inquiries alone. So that is quite intense. So I will say for people who are playing on their own, if it starts to get overwhelming, it's always good to look into getting someone to help you out with admin work because it can get very overwhelming. But going back to what we were talking about, how do you build a name for yourself and how do you sustain yourself in the industry, you constantly have to keep updating your repertoire. Or if you're a singer-songwriter playing only original music, you have to keep writing. It's also very important to do a lot of engagements. Whether you love it or hate it, social media is a very important thing though. So if you want to be old school, do it via email, create a mailing list, you know, that's perfectly fine. If you're like us, I'm the most active on Instagram, on Twitter. We have a Facebook page as well, but the Facebook page is entirely to just update people about gigs, stuff like that. So you gotta make sure that you don't spam one social media account too much with band stuff. Like there's always like articles on BuzzFeed and stuff like that, you know, like telling you, oh, that band that always keeps saying, oh, we've got stuff coming out, keep a lookout, you know, watch this space and stuff like that, but nothing really happens. And people are gonna be like, what are you trying to do? So you gotta know what your flaws are and what your strong points are. If you know that you're not exactly great with the marketing on internet or on social media, then make sure that you're marketing yourself very well face to face with people. Making sure that you're passing cards out to people if they're asking for it.
Because marketing is also have to look a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah. So you pick and choose what you're good at, but don't focus so much on just marketing yourself as well.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure that your craft is good before you market yourself.
So build your product and first then go market.
So it's very important, as if you're a band that's playing covers, you have to keep updating your repertoire. You have to keep learning new songs. Yeah. And making sure that you're catering to what people want to hear. Of course, if it's great, you do your own stuff. Yeah. Like we tread the line of writing original music and doing covers, and I think people are also always very excited about that.
Yeah. And like you said, the music industry changes so fast, so just being relevant and staying on top of those trends.
Yeah.
But for you personally, how do you use social media to kind of get your name out there to make sure more people know about what you're doing and and how do you use it?
We do, well, I use social media to promote gigs sometimes. My own personal social media is also a lot of attention is put on my fitness journey. So like I post my yoga stuff and workouts and stuff like that. But I also do post, like I said, gigs, or actually I sometimes use my social media to post about up and coming musicians. Like if I'm at a gig, I'll definitely take out my phone and put it up.
So using your voice on social media to kind of support the community as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've always had a very love-hate relationship with social media. Like I think that people can be very quick to judge and very quick to criticize, especially with the younger generation. The keyboard warriors are very strong in this day and age. And I'm always trying to make sure that my social media feed is very positive. Like it's not being critical about anything, or at least not on a constant or a regular basis.
I think positivity inspires positivity, right? You know,
For sure.
You create that narrative and that space for other people to be positive as well.
And also tapping into how it relates to the music industry. This is something I always tell people that, like I said, I teach, but I like to think of it as just guidance. Even with my LaSalle students, I always constantly remind them that you may not like a certain type of music that certain artists in Singapore put out. Like say, I could be friends with you, but I don't necessarily enjoy your type of music, but I'm not gonna say you suck.
But you can still support them as a person,
exactly.
even if you don't like them.
I totally support a lot of the Chinese musicians, but I don't listen to Chinese songs. I don't go to Chinese gigs, but when I do see what they do, I see the hard work that they put in, and what you're hearing is really good stuff. Like, you know that the band is tight, you know that the singers are amazing. It doesn't necessarily mean that I listen to it all the time, but I support what they're doing, and I'm behind them 110%. So it doesn't mean that just because you don't like a certain kind of thing means that you are one to diss that person.
Exactly.
So, and I think that's why social media, what you say on social media and how you put yourself across as a person is very important.
Yeah.
It's very, very important.
And the messaging you use and how you use your voice too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So earlier you were saying that on your social media feed it's also a lot about your fitness journey and your. So can you tell us more about that? Because how do you balance your time being a musician and juggle all this stuff and also be a fitness instructor and and also a yoga practitioner and instructor as well?
I started feeling really, really tired from gigs. Like we were playing, I think about 4 or 5 nights at the time. And I had just turned 26. This was about 3 years ago. And my metabolism just went, because of our lifestyle, we eat at the most ungodly hours. We were waking up at certain times and then not sleeping till like 18 hours later. So I really started feeling like it was taking a toll on my health, and because of that, it makes it very hard for me to perform at 100% at gigs. So I've always been quite active, but I was kind of slacking off on that. So I started, really getting into it. I started doing even just 5 minutes a day, like just running on the spot and stuff like that. And then I realized that because I was working out almost every day, I was actually feeling a lot better. And so because I was working out, I had more energy to gig and do my stuff. Because I had more energy to do all those things, it helped that I would then have more energy to work out. So it kind of became like a
help feed each other.
Yeah, it really fed each other. And 3 years on, I'm still working out almost every day, and that's why I'm still able to wake up at 9 a.m., go to sleep at 2 a.m., go through a whole day. Of course, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It's quite a tough life to live, but it helps that I'm doing things that I love. But a big question that people always ask me is, how do you find the time? And a lot of times, like when I talk to people, especially if you work a 9-to-5 office job, the last thing you want to do is go to the gym after like a whole day at work, dealing with clients, dealing with staring at a computer. But I will say that if you really put your mind to it, and all you need to do is just get up and change into your workout gear, everything else is very easy. And if you just spend like half an hour or even 15 minutes, like there are all these apps on the phone to just give you a 10-minute workout, even on YouTube. You will find that it's actually you will actually feel a lot better.
Yeah, and
You
see it as a
feel
gift
lot-
to yourself, I think too.
Yeah,
in
for
terms
sure.
of, like, yeah.
Definitely, and you're doing everyone else a favor, because then you become actually a much happier person, because endorphins and stuff,
Yeah.
right? You actually look a lot fresher. You look a lot brighter, and just in general, it's good for your heart. So you don't want to be that kind of person who works yourself to death, like literally. You want to be able to, work out and still be active.
So what do you do for fitness, like on a daily basis then?
I try to set aside at least half an hour to an hour of yoga. So I do a few rounds of that, and I also, if I have the time, my daily practice is yoga. If I have the time, which is most of the time, halfway through the day I have about 2 hours, I will actually do HIIT cardio as well. So I do a combination of yoga and HIIT cardio, so that I'm working both slow movements and also high-paced stuff.
Okay, so you make a balance, but also it sounds like you really just make the time, right? Like in
You
the
have to
middle-
make time, yeah. I mean, of course, there are days where I go through I'm not home at all from 10 a.m. all the way till midnight. So those are the days where I just have to make sure I'm eating right. I'm not just binging on anything that I can get my hands on. I'm making sure that I'm getting enough fruits, enough vegetables, enough water and stuff like that, just to make sure that I don't slug out too much.
And for yoga, do you practice on your own then? Because I know home yoga practices, you need a lot of discipline,
Yes.
right?
I do practice on my
Yeah.
own. And also when I'm practicing on my own, I'm kind of coming up with different flows and all that to
For
teach.
your class.
Yeah.
Yeah.